Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Changin Gears with your host, Chris Gear. Today, I'm with Rocco Boulay. He is a five-time world bench press champion, helped create the RAMP program you see in a lot of gyms in New Hampshire, and a guitarist, whatever else you want to say. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, of course.
What are we going to talk about today?
So I want to start off, and I want to ask you, how did you get your start in the fitness industry? Where did you get your start? What really made you ramp it up and get into it and, create something like the RAMP program? Just kind of take me through that.
That's quite a question. It may take some time. I'll try to give you the condensed version of that.
Yeah. Condensed, uncondensed, whatever.
I joined the Manchester YMCA back in 1972, long before you even thought of, right?
Yeah.
And I remember it was after my 14th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't wait to get into the weight room and start lifting weights.
Mm-hmm.
I was technically a 100-pound weakling,
Mm-hmm.
5'8", just no muscles at all. Probably
Mm-hmm.
bullied a lot in school. That's for a story for another day.
Yeah.
Something that motivated me to I got to do something about this. Now, you got to remember back in 1972, we did not have the science that we have today available to design kind of the programs that we have in RAMP today. But back then, it was like everybody was trial and error. We tried all kinds of different things. I was born through the ages of where we tried to figure out what was the best solution for getting fit. So
Mm-hmm.
we went through you go back in the days of pumping iron with Arnold and Franco and Frank Zane and
Mm-hmm.
Ken Waller and Mike Katz, all those guys. They were also experimenting on what's the best training program, if there is such a thing, right? So we did different things like periodization, we did pyramids, we did drop sets, we did sets till failure, anything and everything you could possibly think of, overtraining, undertraining, and everywhere
Mm-hmm.
in between. So as fitness evolved and as I was in that industry, and I can honestly tell you this, since 1972, I've never missed a week of working out.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Pretty sick.
Yeah.
So, here comes the mid to late 70s where all of a sudden fitness became a fad.
Mm-hmm.
So started seeing the prevalence of Gold's gyms, world gyms, who started to become part of Bally's Fitness. There's different fitness chains that started rising out of the depths of nowhere because everybody wanted to be the new in thing, which was fitness. But it wasn't so much about fitness as it was about socialization, because it was a place where
Mm-hmm.
people went. There was the exercise people. There was also the people who were the spectators inside the fitness centers that they were exercising, but they didn't exercise to exercise. They
Yeah.
Be part of the social scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was the 80s, and it became a business model, and the business model became something that became an industry in itself. So
Mm-hmm.
back then it was the YMCA's, and early on it was your local hole in the wall types of gyms.
Yeah.
But when it became a business, there was a thing that happened, and you could talk about guys. Gold's Gym there was a guy by the name of Pete Grimkowski, and he was also a bodybuilder who took over the Gold's chain from Joe Golden. That's when it started to become industrialized, so to speak, or commercialized, where they started selling franchises, and because of it had the logo with the ape on the front doing the
Yeah.
remember that logo with the deadlift and so on. But as it became more and more of a product to be able to make money, the purpose for fitness was to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't about fitness.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been about fitness just until recently, because when you really take a look at what's happening in our country right now, it's like people need fitness not as a social thing, but as a therapy to be able to stay healthy, right? So
Right.
this transition of the industry has gone crazy. So I could take you through all those glory years, and I don't want to get so bogged down that you won't be able to ask me another question.
No, but that's a good segue into my next question, actually, and you kind of just touched on it. And I wouldn't say it's an opinionated question or a loaded question, because it's kind of well known now that the fitness industry has some shortcomings in some areas. And I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the fitness industry today? How do you feel? Because you also talked about how it almost started in the 70s, early 70s. So how do you feel as if the industry itself has kind of been stunted in the growth. Now you see these, influencers, you see these fitness influencers who are taking, different drugs to get to that size that for a lot of people might not be obtainable. But how do you feel about the industry as it is right now with people, selling all these supplements, selling, protein powders, different, like not, it's not necessarily bad, but, TRT and other, peptides, how do you feel about the industry and where it's come since maybe you started and you've seen the actual growth and formation of the industry?
I think the industry is looking for an identity
Mm-hmm.
because the purpose of what I said they became was really about socialization and making money
Right.
via memberships, right? People didn't get healthy,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Yes, you'd support the local bodybuilders that went to the shows, male or female, whatever the case may have been back then. But the majority of the people back then, because the food quality wasn't so bad, nobody was really sick.
Right.
I would say the 80s was my most favorite decade. If I could go back and relive that again,
Mm-hmm.
bring me back to 1980 to 1989, I would do it a million times over. The decades I lived in, from the 90s to
Yeah.
2000, so on and so forth. So that would ultimately be my best decade because the drug thing wasn't, it was there, but it wasn't
Right.
rampant like it is today.
Yeah.
The Mr. Olympia of back then,
Mm-hmm.
the Frank Zanes and the Arnolds, even though they did take gear, right?
Yeah, right.
It wasn't to the extent that it is today.
Yeah, correct.
I know a lot of these people today. I know them. We've talked about what happens behind the scenes. Forget about peptides. Let's talk about the real stuff, right?
Right.
The stuff that just totally just makes you inhuman to
Mm-hmm.
some degree. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is how human.
Right.
Even some of the last Mr. Olympias from say 2000 on. I mean, come on.
Right.
You can do all the exercise and eating you want. You're never going to look
Right. Yeah.
So in essence, things have changed so much. But the fitness industry, back to the identity thing, is they have to figure out a way to be able to service the people who really need them the most. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I focus my attention on helping those who are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Diabetes, heart disease, cancer, hypertension. I can go on and on. When you take a look at the challenge we have in this country in healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
this problem isn't because people are sick from disease. They're sick from foods that they eat that's
Right.
chemically laden and
Mm-hmm.
is thrown off their metabolism, their whole physiology, right? And then you have people who used to work for a living manually, right?
Yeah.
That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody has any of this stuff
Right.
anymore,
Yeah.
This is the key.
Right.
Other
Right.
than the food, if you don't have this, you're going to die early.
Right.
Okay? Plain and simple, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
die early. And people who are desperate right now, here's a conundrum for these people. They're in pain,
Mm-hmm.
right? People who are not healthy are in pain. And then to get out of pain,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take you more pain.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this for a second. So even if you get on, do you ever know somebody who is eating such poor foods that when you put them on a healthy food program, they're miserable?
100%.
Are they
100%. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Somebody who isn't moving that starts lifting, with the first time they go out and do a weightlifting training in an afternoon,
Yeah.
right? The next day or the next 2 days after
They're
that,
sore for
are they in pain
2,
again?
3. Yeah.
So here's where I think commercialism has trapped people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because no matter what you do, you're going to have pain. But this would be my argument to all of those people would be, if you don't do anything, you're in pain for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, okay, I'm going to settle for being in pain, or unless you become a drug addict who goes on painkillers, and then you'll still die early, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your option. Or the second option is to take the bull by the horns, go through the process of, it's not terribly painful, but it's going to take some self-determinism, which a lot of people don't have anymore,
Mm-hmm.
to make their own choice, to say, to say that I really got to have a donut is weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Mm-hmm.
really have to have one? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Most people out there, not most, I should say, people who have weight problems have that
Yeah.
challenge of this is hard for me to do, right? But if you can get back to your self-determinism. Say, I choose not to. Not because Rocco, the coach, tells you,
Yeah.
or anybody else tells you to do that, but because you've become self-empowered again to say, I'm going to make my choices for myself because it's what's right for me and take back my life. Until people do that, no exercise or no food is ever going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like there's like a certain misinformation, and it kind of loops back to the, what you're saying, the commercial um, part of the fitness industry. You have these people who are peddling these, not drugs, but, products that in the end don't help you that much. It's kind of the point to make money and not really get people healthy. Do you see a lot of that misinformation, and do you want to kind of get or help do your part to get the fitness industry to just back to being, a solid truth of how to get healthy, how to stay healthy, and how to do it, the correct way?
I think the fitness industry is on the verge of a great opportunity if they take it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think of it, 270 million people in this country that are overweight or obese,
Mm-hmm.
40,000 health clubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we divided those people up into as many health clubs there are, that would be 8,000 members per club.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the math off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I may be off by a few
Yeah.
here and there, but
Yeah.
can you imagine that
Right.
a fitness center had so many people waiting to get in
Mm-hmm.
because they had a solution to help people recover their
Right.
health? Huge.
Right. Yeah.
That's why you need systems. That's why we created RAMP, because the only way that we can do this affordably and economically is to be able to have a system that is able to take large masses of people, bring them into a fitness center, create the programming and the meal planning guidance for them
Mm-hmm.
to be able to execute that so they have a plan
Mm-hmm.
to go from point A to point B. In other words, go to your doctors and say, okay, well, here are my metabolic metrics, we'll say inflammation markers, lipids like cholesterol, and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
your diabetes markers, you have healthy blood sugars or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to look at those and then post every 3, 6, 12 months that we can look at these metrics and say, we're putting all these people on the right path,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, in the medical industry, they say a patient cured is a patient lost, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That philosophy is going to kill everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And eventually there'll be no more people left for them to even service as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be a paradigm shift in the medical community that says, how do we remunerate or pay doctors to keep you healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you come back and say, look, doc, you just improved my health, improved through your guidance and through, say, my health coach trainer at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Together you work in tandem to create that positive outcome, and the insurance companies support that mission versus, okay, well, the pharmaceutical industry goes, oh, well, you got to take drugs away from us. Well, no, get into different drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we talked about peptides. There's a lot of peptides out there that are not legal yet.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them way safer than medications.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them, but there's a certain handful. If they were tested and regulated by the pharmaceutical industry could also flip that switch and be part of the solution instead of treating a problem, right? And then the maintenance of ongoing therapy still has to be. You can't just stop working out and
Yeah.
still be fit. You can't stop not eating well and then go back in the other direction too. The same thing holds true for what you're doing with your doctor. It's like, how am I? If I'm not working to make my health better, I'm working to make my health worse.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that whole picture of what that would look like, I already see it, but whether we can get the industry and I'm talking about the fitness industry,
Yeah.
even the medical communities to start looking at this and say, how do we make this a win-win for our communities and for everybody? I don't want to take anybody's job away.
Right.
I don't think that's a good thing. Everybody needs to get paid. Everybody needs to make a living, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do that so that there is no loser in that game?
Right.
And it's a tough challenge.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah. And I heard someone say, and I've actually heard many people say that, and you, it seems as if you agree, but the healthcare system currently in the United States, it's designed to keep you sick. It's designed to keep you kind of needing, more of these drugs that, like you said, aren't going to help truly prolong your life and help you live a healthy, longer life, but kind of in the later years just dampen the pain. Um, and I think that's great that you almost have like an idea of how to fix that. But and I also want to know your stance on some of these drugs, like we touched on it. Testosterone replacement therapy, which isn't as much of a drug as it is just
Hormone, yeah.
hormone. But what's your stance on some of those that you see a lot of in today's fitness industry?
Anything that you're deficient in, you need.
Mm-hmm.
So to say, what's my stance on that? My stance is that if you're lacking calcium and you have osteoporosis,
Mm-hmm.
you need to get calcium, whether it's
Right.
from green leafy vegetables or dairy or both.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you're lacking in testosterone, like old guys like me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not young like you. Like I don't have testosterone in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, let's go out and let's knock down the world today. To a degree, I think testosterone replacement therapy is a great thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
I work with women for decades that have gone through peri and postmenopause,
Mm-hmm.
and I've looked at their labs along with doctors, and we worked in conjunction together to see what was really going on hormonally with them, and you see that they had no thyroid anymore,
Right.
that they had no progesterone, they can't sleep at night,
Mm-hmm.
their hair is falling out, their skin's bad,
Mm-hmm.
their cardiovascular system is suffering because the hormone itself is missing, so therefore they can't keep those systems healthy
Mm-hmm.
the way we did when they have youthful hormones.
Right. Right.
So to replace those things with, I'm a big fan of bioidentical, which means that
Mm-hmm.
take the one that is exactly the one your body makes, is probably ultimately the best thing you can do in your later years, and have it overseen by a professional who understands it to that level. And there are not many. I've spoken to so many doctors
Yeah.
out there that have not a clue,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to get into it because they're afraid at the I guess at the suffering of the patient, because
Mm-hmm.
the doctor doesn't know what to do, so therefore the patient doesn't get the
Mm-hmm.
kind of treatment they really should get. Especially with the hormone replacement therapy, which I think is vital.
Mm-hmm.
To a longer health span, and there's a
Yep.
difference between health span and lifespan. You know what that is?
What?
Health span is how long you live and
Yep.
you're functional, doing things, right?
Yep.
Lifespan just means if you spend the last 10, 15 years of your life in a bed someplace,
Yeah.
even though you live 15 years longer, is that worth it?
No. To a lot of people, hopefully not.
So that's the difference between health
Yeah.
span and lifespan. So we
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to look at health span because we want people to have that longevity, that they're able to be functional, probably to that very last second where they drop dead. Okay,
Right.
cool.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
can complain about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. And I also want to ask you, and I mentioned it, but I want to know what you think of these modern day fitness influencers. Whether you know regardless of what they're on. Do you know Liver King?
Yes.
Yeah. I want because he essentially lied about what he was taking, and then the truth was found out. But how do you feel about some of these? In that case, I'll use him as an example. But some of these influencers who are just kind of misguiding the youth and saying, I don't take, like, especially like Liver King, I don't take anything, and kind of creating this dysmorphia of this is actually obtainable if you eat the right foods, and then people almost lose that confidence because they're like, I can't get there naturally, and then they decide to take these things. But what are your feelings on those modern day fitness influencers? Maybe, I don't know if you've seen or met any personally, but I just wanted to get your stance.
Well, I don't know all of them. I've seen a bunch of them out there, and I almost laughed to myself.
Yeah.
That's how ridiculous they are.
Yep.
I'm a scientist.
Right. Yeah.
My degree's in science.
Yep.
Everything that I do, I back by science.
Mm-hmm.
I can prove it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I prove it every single day with the people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't shoot off the cuff and just make shit up.
Right.
I just don't.
Right.
I don't try to sell anything.
Mm-hmm.
I help people.
Mm-hmm.
People recognize that in what we do. I think you'll have Eric on another show, but with Eric, when I first met Eric, and I was telling him, like, you have to have good intentions to really help people in this business. It's not about selling memberships. It's about
Yep.
helping people
Yep.
get out of their pain.
Right.
When you change your philosophy to that mindset, the money becomes part of it because people don't feel like you're hoodwinking them into
Right.
some kind of a scam.
Right.
A lot of these influencers, they just want you to buy the crap that
Yeah.
somebody's supporting
Yeah.
them on a channel, whatever product it's willing to
Yeah.
pay them to say
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want to say about that particular product. So for you, I can tell that when you're asking me about different things, that because you personally kind of want to know for yourself, like what's the good thing, what's not the good thing, or how do I tell my
Yeah,
audience,
definitely. And I think it's,
right?
yeah, and I think it's such a good tool to have someone, like yourself who, again, like you just said, backs everything by science. It's good to have that sort of conversation because again, like you see a lot of these influencers who, like you said, they're paid by a company to promote this product, and then they kind of they're like, hey, I use this works, and then it's just a loop of misinformation, misguidance, and then people realize these people aren't, most of them aren't
They're
naturally.
flash in the pan people that take a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them. I'm not going to blanket cover this, but the majority of them will do a cycle of whatever they're going to do for steroids, growth hormone,
Mm-hmm.
peptides, the whole 9 yards. Get to a certain look for a while on their channel so that they
Mm-hmm.
can sell shit and make money. But you see, you have to look at longevity. How many bodybuilders, if you look in the past, and I'm not telling you to go do a history report, but if you
Yeah.
look at all the bodybuilders that you saw them like, well, they're there, where they go,
Yeah.
right? Where are they now? And then you take a look at them online,
Yeah.
they've never become anything
Mm-hmm.
because once they got past that point of, I'm going to call it cheating, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or use something to enhance something for a particular purpose and it went away. You take somebody like me, who's been working out since I'm 14 years old, eating well for the most part. I eat nachos. I have brownies once in a while. Some ice cream.
Okay, so those have the stamp of approval.
Right? I have all those things, but in my mind, I'm always
Yep.
like, I make it to the gym 3 times per week, and then I have some activity in between that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to eat 5 times a day, 4 of those meals are going to be good.
Right.
That way, I'm never missing out on anything.
Yeah. Right.
Ever.
Right.
So
Right.
I maintain a healthy body composition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 15-16% body fat.
Mm-hmm.
I've looked like this. I've been 198 pounds now for over 40 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Is my lean mass changed? A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the average of lean mass that most
Mm-hmm.
men or most people lose over decade after decade, right? I don't fit into that category. Am I an
Mm-hmm.
anomaly? I'm only an anomaly because I kept doing what I do. People say you look the
Mm-hmm.
same. I go because I do the same things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Take a guy like me who's 67 and a half years old, right? Now look at that,
Hell yeah.
right?
Yeah.
67 and a half years old. And I'm not bragging, but in a
Yeah.
way I am. I'm saying like
No. Yeah.
anybody can do it. And I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60 years old.
Yeah.
Even if you're 80 years old, it's never too late
Mm-hmm.
to increase your ability to have a healthier
Mm-hmm.
health span, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, you're going to get back what you put in. If you don't do anything, accept the result that you get.
Right. And I feel like people look for shortcuts now, especially when it comes to their fitness, when it's really just the boring stuff, the consistency, eating good food. That's what's going to get you some size. That's what it's going to keep you
But
healthy.
maybe that is a shortcut.
If that's a shortcut, then yeah, I'm cutting corners.
I think once you develop a taste for healthy food,
Mm-hmm.
when you eat crap, it tastes like crap.
Yeah, exactly. I used to be, I used to eat crap. Now I eat, just, ground beef, grass-fed beef, some vegetables, and it tastes like it's amazing. Put a little bit of hot sauce on it. It's perfect, and I don't like eating chips. I don't like eating, cookies really anymore. Ice cream, I haven't had ice cream in probably months. But I totally agree. I think once you get like a taste for, the good food, the crap that you maybe once enjoyed, it's just crap now.
It is, but again, I'm getting back to the choice thing.
Yeah.
When, here's the thing, right? And I say this a lot, and it probably sound redundant I've probably said it in other podcasts, but America doesn't run on. You can't have it your way. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the king of beers. It's not the real thing. It's not finger licking good.
Mm-hmm.
Pizza.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm loving it. All that
Mm-hmm.
has been brainwashing people for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look outside, go to any local mall
Mm-hmm.
and watch the people walking around, and they become imprisoned
Mm-hmm.
by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have to be put in a prison because they're already in one.
Mm-hmm.
It's their own physicality.
Mm-hmm.
They're stuck in there. You
Mm-hmm.
think they're really happy?
No. No. Deep down, no.
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 So, and then the very people who have created this problem are the same people in spreading the propaganda that
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't fat shame because, that's not very nice. You could hurt people's feelings.
Right.
These people have hurt these people so bad.
Yeah.
Talk about the industry.
Yeah.
Have hurt them so bad, and now they're trying to cover their ass
Mm-hmm.
by saying, "Oh, you shouldn't fat shame." These people already feel bad. If you don't have to fat shame them, they already
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
the condition they're in. I'm saying, if you want to change, then we're going to create a massive amount of help for these people. We're using fitness industry professionals to be able to spread. This is the roadmap to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be self-determined and say, I'm going to do this, versus like, I'm going to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah.
It's trying.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
Either you're doing it, or you're not doing it.
Yeah. Right.
There's no trying.
Mm-hmm.
For how long? You keep doing it until you reach your goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's how winning is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not like the whole fat shaming thing. It's I think they created that term to just as another buzzword to, or a couple buzzwords to kind of shame people. It's got nothing to do with obviously if I see someone who's overweight, I'm not gonna disrespect them. Be like, oh, you're fat.
It's just another divisive
Yeah.
tactic that they use.
Yeah.
They use racism big, right?
Yep.
I grew up with every race you could possibly think of. I have friends of every race out
Mm-hmm.
there. We never had a problem with the color,
Mm-hmm.
ever.
All right.
Even
Yep.
our language or
Yep.
anything that we did back then. We played football, sports.
Yeah.
together.
Right.
We're like brothers and
Yeah.
sisters, and we never gave a shit.
Right.
about that.
Right.
These people are creating that division,
Yep.
okay? And it's not making for a healthier community. It's making everybody hate each other. But the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, it should be us against them. And
Exactly.
they don't get it.
Right.
It's frustrating because they're buying into what they're saying. They're
Mm-hmm.
buying into. They're supporting the very people that are killing them.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's almost like you hate yourself, so you're going to spread that hate to other people, and then it just creates, completely divisive, community and, country. So I kind of want to change some gears.
Okay, Mr. Chris.
So who are some of your inspirations when it comes to the fitness world? Who are some people you mentioned Arnold, maybe Jay Cutler? Who are some of those guys that, you look up to and you kind of, look at them, maybe not, I'm not saying you're a fangirl or whatever, but some people you look at them for face value, like, hey, you did your thing. Maybe you didn't do it the way I would, but, you're still, I hold you to a, inspiration.
Well, to be quite honest, none of those guys.
I knew you were going to say that.
I don't even respect them to this day.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of lying and baloney that was part of the whole pumping iron scene back in the day.
Yep.
That they told a lot of bullshit to hide their drug abuse. And there's just a lot of dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. And even where, me being in the YMCA, I had my mentors there.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that were older than me. I can mention names on this, right?
Yeah.
Guys like Jim Ganley, which you probably never heard of him.
Nope.
Very great writer,
Mm-hmm.
a great guy. Bob Todd was another one that I saw a picture of him in high school, and he was doing the rings. And I asked my gym teacher, "Who's that guy?"
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "That's Bob Todd.
Mm-hmm.
He's a weightlifter now down at the YMCA." And it made me I wanted to be like them.
Mm-hmm.
They were local inspirations to me. Another guy, Frank Gingras, another one of my friends to this day. These were the guys that were my role models, at least in fitness.
Yeah.
They definitely they're a crazy bunch of guys.
Yeah, right.
We used to hang out and go to the bars and stuff, and they were just
Yeah.
totally insane.
Yeah.
And I could tell you stories upon stories about them.
Yeah.
When it came to the actual fitness thing and their dedication to bodybuilding and powerlifting, there were nobody better than these guys.
Mm-hmm.
They called themselves the Goon Squad.
Yeah.
So that was my those were my role models as far as getting me into fitness. So
have you, and I believe I asked you this, but have you met Ronnie Coleman?
Not personally. No.
No. When you look at someone like him, I mean, you see where he is now. I mean, he can hardly
I know
walk.
the condition.
Right. So is that kind of plays into what you were just saying? You see the guys who were, just kind of destroyed their bodies long term for that short term
Yeah.
glory.
I think Ronnie, I mean, how massively strong and big he was during
Hmm.
his time, and got caught up into how do I maintain this for as long as I can, using other substances to get through. Me being a power lifter, I had herniated a disc doing deadlifts years and years ago, and ultimately ended up with spinal stenosis. I just had my last surgery back in January, but for almost 2 decades, I was miserable because
Hmm.
I wouldn't kneel to the painkiller route. So
Yeah.
I live with this miserable pain, and now that I've had the surgery, I feel so much better. But I didn't abuse myself like Ronnie just abused himself. You take a look at
Hmm.
the amount of weights that he put on that frame,
Right.
whether it was leg presses or inclined dumbbell presses, the things that he was doing was just way beyond my sickness.
Hmm.
And of course, there's a price to pay, just like I pay the price with my back.
Hmm.
For the most part, I bench press 500 pounds. My shoulders are still good at 67 years old, and I'm fortunate.
Hmm.
And my back's not so fortunate, but I'm okay.
Hmm.
I continue to exercise every day. It doesn't get in my way.
Hmm.
But for him, he's managed to have a good attitude about it.
Hmm.
As a person, and I don't know him, but as a person, what he says, I like him.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah. And when it comes to like those compound lifts, unless you're getting on a stage or you're competing, would you recommend, because when I played football and I wrestled, bench pressing was never really, we would bench press, but at the end of the day, it wasn't as useful to us on the field or on the mat because those exercises, they're very one dimensional. Like our athletic trainer or our coaches always used to say, when are you going to be pushing a guy or benching a guy off of you? Maybe when
I'll
you get
tell you
tackled.
when,
Yeah.
when you're on the offensive line and you're blocking.
I was gonna say,
okay?
besides that, but would you maybe when it comes to compound lifts, because I know people do have different views on them, but would you recommend them obviously maybe for athletes for outside of those powerlifting competitions? Would you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. So.
I mean, compound lifts are the staple. All the
Hmm.
secondary single joint lifts they're for pretty muscles.
Hmm.
You could do compound lifts, and that's all you have to do, and you'd still
Yeah.
be pretty good physical condition. But I would argue that those who are beginners in fitness, just being on a circuit of machines, whether they're compound or single movement lifts, is good for that beginner because so many people who are deconditioned need to have a starting point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to teach a beginner how to do a competition squat
Right.
is ridiculous.
Right. Right.
Or a hang clean or one of these types of movements are just way too difficult because there's a level of fundamental basic musculature you need prior to going from a two-dimensional movement to a three-dimensional movement.
Right.
And with multi-articular or two joints
Hmm.
to make that happen. So it's like no different than grade school. You start in the first grade, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to the 8th grade after first grade.
Right. No. No.
It's a grade change.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then even when we're training people now, it's like, what grade does this person belong in?
Right.
So we do
Right.
that evaluation on each one of our programs to find out where do we place this person in what
Mhm.
grade.
Mm-hmm.
Because now if you start them off with the right grade, it's easy to move them up. If I start them too hard, they're going to fail. If I start them too easy because they're more advanced, they're not going to get any gains and they're going to
Yeah.
fail too, right?
Right.
So you have to, evaluation is key.
Right. And what age would you recommend somebody, start like working out? I know you mentioned you started at the age of 14. I believe I started around 15, probably 15, 16 years old. And I know I'm not a scientist like yourself, obviously, but I've heard, from the research I've done, once you hit that age, 40, you start losing muscle. So, like, what would be a good starting point for somebody to start building muscle and really kind of start that longevity, kind of keep them in a healthy routine? What age would you recommend they get started?
Anybody? I mean, as far as the age, how young they are?
Maybe someone like like a youth, like what's like a good starting age you would like recommend?
Well, first off, that's kind of a little bit of a hard question
Yeah.
to answer, and I'll tell you the reason why is
Yeah.
because so much of the food today has chemicals that mimic hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take a look at, you know what a bra was for a girl in 8th grade my age back then?
What?
A t-shirt.
Yeah, right.
There was nothing there.
Yeah.
But today you look at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls, right? You're seeing B and C cups,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what's happened is it's forced puberty to come, or adolescence to change earlier in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little girls starting their periods at 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right.
Mm-hmm.
There's been something that's changed the endocrine system within males and females.
Mm-hmm.
Little boys, I look at they're feminized looking now.
Right. I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
They get the little man boobs, and
Mm-hmm.
you see this, and I feel that they've been taken advantage of because it's so prevalent. Nobody notices that it's different.
Right.
Is it just accept that that's the way that it is, but that's not.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who looks healthy, the parents tell that kid's too skinny. If you took a look at all of us kids when we were young, we were like, we were straight out of we had no fat on us.
Yeah.
We played in the playgrounds. We were these little
Yeah.
wiry things.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, puberty is supposed to happen around 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's when all the hormones start to change, same for males and females. You can tell. We used a thing called the Tanner Index. We used to, and I don't know if that's still something we use, but back then the Tanner Index would be able to tell you by looking at a male and a female's maturity
Mm-hmm.
when they were ready. Because once a person starts lifting weights because of the elevation in growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, things of that nature, there are growth plates in the bones that start to seal off.
Mm-hmm.
When they seal off, that also stops your linear growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you try to, for as long as possible, make sure that the young person has reached their full potential linearly before you'd actually put too much of that. And I'm not saying not be active.
No,
I
right.
think you need to be active.
Yeah.
Since they want to have the habit of always being active, running and playing.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it is. But when it actually gets into weight training to start building muscle,
Yeah.
that you got to the point where I think I started maybe a little too early because my other two brothers were actually a little taller than me.
Right.
Well, by like 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely I was more muscular than them.
Right.
A lot.
No, and that makes total sense. I mean, you see, like you do, like you just said, you want to see people, stay active, like run around, play sports, be active, be healthy, but you don't want to push the power, weightlifting too early so that they can, finish growing.
I mean, if you're going to teach them different, say it's a compound, say it's a squat, right? There's no reason why you can't teach a kid how to do a great squat with a broomstick.
Right.
Just to get those emotions, doing a squat, jumping jacks, and all those calisthenics are still good for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Getting in, starting to load the spine with,
Right.
a couple $100 pounds of a squat.
Decompress the spine.
It's silly,
Yeah.
Right? So you don't want to do that, but you're just being smart about it, and if it's your child.
Yeah.
Sure, so many parents get so overzealous about trying to get that kid to be the greatest in the world, and they end up hurting them.
Yeah. Right.
Especially kids who play basketball and are pitchers. Their elbows aren't, their whole bone structure isn't fully developed yet, and they cause so many problems with shoulders and elbows, and the kid never makes it to the big leagues because he started too soon.
Right, and it's like almost like a comparison to like say a child actor or something. They're put on in front of a camera at such a young age. They kind of grow up in that world, and then they don't really know a world outside of it.
They're disappointed when they find out what the real world's like.
You're right. They see a real person and they talk to them, and They're like, okay, you stay on camera, stay on screen. So you used to be a boxer, correct?
Very,
As
very early on, yes.
and as your father was
My
too.
father was the 1953 New Hampshire Golden Glove champ. Yes.
Awesome. So I wanted to talk more about that. Where do you feel as if boxing played a big role in the kind of, you talked about that self-determination and that almost discipline. Do you feel as if boxing gave you a good discipline for your entry into the fitness world?
No,
No?
no. I think I.
Do you think it maybe played a part?
No.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
my dad was very heavy on me being athletic.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier I'm a guitar player, right?
Yeah.
He hated that I played
Yeah.
because it wasn't what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the boxing thing for me was to try to pacify him.
Oh, okay. Got it. So it was less of a,
I,
you
I,
know.
I could fight.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't remember any bar fight I ever lost.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, when I get in the ring, there's two things. Back then, we didn't wear headgear.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the amateurs, there was no headgear. It was just like you're fighting like a pro.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, because of my stature, I had shorter arms, and typically I'd fight guys that had like a 6-inch reach on me. So I had to take about 9 shots to the head
Mm-hmm.
before I could get in. And then once I got inside where I could do the damage, they put you in a clinch and they break up again. I had to take the same amount of punches again to get back into the fight. So for me, the second thing is I don't have what it takes to hurt another person that's done nothing to me.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
That killer instinct that a lot of fighters have, I only have that if somebody's encroaching on me or any one of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be anywhere near me.
Mm-hmm.
I will tear you apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
If you have done nothing to me, I can't just go hurt you.
Yeah. Right.
That's not me as a person.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that boxing never was really anything. Now, don't get me wrong, I train boxing, and
Yeah.
to this day I still hit the bag.
Mm-hmm.
I can go in and hit the bag for round after round, and I still can hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I wouldn't want to be hit by me.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit the bag, sometimes if I'm doing I don't know, maybe like left or right hooks to the bag, and I think about how much force I can still apply at my age, I'm like, I wouldn't want to feel the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, but again, that's just my own personal fitness, and if I happen to get into some kind of a skirmish, I'm not just going to go down easy, right? So.
And did you wrestle yourself?
No wrestling.
Oh, okay. But you played football, correct?
I played football.
Yeah, and you were on the O-line?
No, I was running back.
You were running back. Okay. Did you when did you stop playing football?
Start or stop?
When did you start? What's like the timeline? Like when did you start and then when did you?
It's an odd question. I played a lot of the intramural like flag football.
Oh, okay.
Up.
Yeah.
And then when I was done with the band, I was done with the band when I was 36 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to school to get my degree in exercise physiology. So I played for Plymouth State College at 36.
Wow.
Yeah. So
On their football team?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I played for Plymouth State for 1 year. And then the next off season, that's when I hurt my back.
Okay.
And I stopped playing. But yeah, that was my long and short of it. I also went to a Steelers mini camp way back when. This is before you were born as well. They had the strike, the NFL strike. I ended up going to a camp out in Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the very last day that I was prior to whether we were going to get to the next level, I got into a fight with a linebacker who tackled me and kept beating me on the head because he was trying to make the team too. They had to pull him up. He gave me a concussion. Well, concussion did something to my heart, made my heart race. So the next day when we were supposed to go out for the final tryout, they wouldn't let me out on the field.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so that was kind of the end of that, the long and short of it. But I don't regret it. It was an experience. And
We're getting into the odd questions now. We're
questions, but
here's a burning question I have. Do you like buffalo chicken?
yes.
Is buffalo chicken healthy?
I'd give it a neutral.
Neutral. Okay. Okay.
Um, I was never much of a
Spice or
no. I was a spice
okay.
because when you're in pain, like I was
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
minute,
Yeah.
if you eat hot stuff,
Yeah.
it releases endorphins in your brain and
Yeah.
almost quell the pain a little bit. I
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
buffalo extra spicy a lot to stop my pain
Mm-hmm.
in replacement of like Oxycontin or whatever people
Mm-hmm.
were taking. But the funny story is with this is I trained a professional baseball player. He actually might be good for a podcast at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's become one of my best friends, if not my best friend. His name's Greg LaRocque. He played. He was drafted by the San Diego Padres, and then the Cleveland Indians. Then went off and finished his career in Japan for like 7 years. But when he was with Cleveland in AAA, they were out of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He was part of what they call the Buffalo Bisons.
Yeah.
And I was out there with him quite a few years back. He says, "I'll take you to the place where they invented buffalo wings."
Yeah.
It was a place called Duff's.
Mm-hmm.
And we went in there and we got this big, massive basket of these things, right? With the blue cheese and
Yeah.
give you this big, giant
Yeah.
pitcher of cold beer.
Yeah.
You start eating it, was sweating to death. It was like one of the best times of my life. This stuff was great.
Right.
You know, so I kind of got hooked on buffalo wings back then, partially because of the pain-killing effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The other part was that they were tasty. But,
Yeah.
you know, they're deep fried, so depending on what oil they deep fried them in, is
Yeah.
determine how healthy or unhealthy
Yeah.
they are. I mean, protein and chicken fat. I mean, the chickens now are just laden with so many chemicals.
Yeah.
You know, chicken wing back then was like this big, and now the chicken wing's like this.
You're right.
How's
Right.
that happening?
Yeah.
So all these things you have to take into consideration. There's a trap everywhere. You have to just make the best decisions for every single day. Like, what's my choice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are the meat sweats real? Is that a real thing, a real phenomenon, or is that?
Meat sweats?
Yeah. You ever hear that term?
No.
No. It's where I think it's where you keep eating so much you actually start physically sweating.
I never eat that much. So
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
I'm not
That's
a
fair.
huge eater. I
That's
eat
fair.
small more often than big giant meals. I've always been
Yep.
that way.
Yeah.
Never crazy.
Right. So you mentioned your father and how he was a Golden Gloves champ, and you actually off camera a couple weeks ago you told me about a story where he's a veteran, or he was a veteran. He served in the
The
army, and he actually met Elvis Presley.
He not only did he meet him, he actually drove from Tennessee to I believe it was Fort Hood,
Yeah.
with him, my father, Elvis, my father, and two bodyguards. He was in the other train car, and then the guys in the train car, because he was
Yeah.
the Golden Gloves champ, kind of egged him on to see if he could meet him, and then the bodyguards came up and said, "You can't get into this
Yeah.
car," and then Elvis said, "Let him in."
Yeah.
So that's how that whole story happened. That he ended up driving.
That's funny.
With Elvis, and he actually played my dad a song. And
That's
my
funny.
dad would tell me he was wearing green and white cowboy boots with little guitars on them.
Did he party with Elvis?
He didn't party with
No.
him. He was mad because when they went into the PX to buy the different types of things, my dad would go and buy one T-shirt, one pair of socks.
Yeah.
And Elvis was like, "Give me 20 T-shirts, 20 pairs of socks."
Did he ever did he get like an autograph? Like, hey, sign.
My mom got a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Elvis would write to my mom.
Oh, that's funny.
And say, "What are you doing with this bum? You
Yeah.
should be with me." Blah blah blah. Those autographs my mom kept when she came back from Texas, and
Mm-hmm.
my cousins found them in a cigar box
Yeah.
and sold them so they could get bicycles.
Oh God. Oh my
That's
God.
it's a good story.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's funny. I feel like the story it's always the stories that matter, not the memorabilia. So, when you also mentioned, off camera when we spoke a couple weeks ago that, you just want to be treated like everybody else. You don't want to be when you're the recognition doesn't matter to you as much. Do you, when it comes to like your ultimate goal in the world of fitness, is it just to help people? You just want to help people achieve, their goals and just live a long, healthy life. Is that just where you, and if it wasn't your goal first, what kind of maybe helped shape that goal for you? If it is your goal.
Real simple. When I told you the 80s was my favorite decade, because people were very health conscious during that decade. So
Yep.
for me, that was best era, there were people who were still healthy, still fit.
Mm-hmm.
You had people that were not as athletic or exercise crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody was physically in a good spot.
Yeah.
Healthcare was more affordable. We didn't have a million drug commercials on TV like we have today. Ask your doctor, this is right for you, that's right for you. And then the side effects that they play are this beautiful
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and possibly death. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like what?
Right.
That's, to me, I don't want to live in a world where people aren't flourishing and prospering like I am.
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody to have the same thing. So you want to talk about diversity and equity?
Mm-hmm.
I want equity in health.
Yeah.
That everybody has a chance to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Because healthy people are typically happy people.
Yep.
Right? So it's not about money. I'm too old to worry about money at this point. I do have enough money to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very fortunate that I've made a lot of good business decisions and was able to get to this point in my life where I don't have to work. I don't have to help anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there could be any better gift that I have right now than to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How many people can say that? Everybody
Right.
says you're suspect. What is it you're really up to? Everybody's
Right.
so cynical about, when you say, when I told people, you really have the intention of helping people. And in the beginning, when they have that intention,
Yeah.
the other people spring back like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
And it's because we've been in this situation for
Yeah.
so long that trying to truly want to help somebody, you feel suspect.
Right.
We have to get rid
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
We have to make people feel like this person's really out for my better good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just how much money can I get out of it.
Yeah.
I want to drive
Right.
that Lamborghini and be that influencer that say, look how much I made it with my big gold watch.
Right. Right.
Everybody should be like me.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Right.
I look at all that stuff and I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah. Right.
That's not the measure of any man.
Right.
And if you think it is, you better go back to the drawing board because
Right.
you're going to be sadly disappointed.
Mm-hmm. In talking more about the RAMP program, I want to, if you could, maybe talk about the kind of creation of the RAMP program, because it just ties into helping people, reach goals and helping people, just feel better and, look better and just be healthier. When did this program kind of come to fruition, and, what's the kind of process behind it?
Prior to going to college, when I was a current world champion at that time, I had done a lot of clinics and seminars at fitness centers, mainly with power lifters. So powerlifting is a squat, bench, and deadlift. And for me to become a world champion at doing that, I created formulas to get there. There wasn't just a random, I'm going to be at this number. It was like, what can I do today? What's feasible?
Mm-hmm.
X amount of time to get there, right? So I created my own formulas. So I would go to the fitness center, as world champion Rocco Boulay is coming and he's going to talk 2 hours, ask a clinic about food,
Mm-hmm.
lifting, whatever you have, and I would sit there and I would do maybe a 45-minute presentation. Then I would be open to questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, everybody would always ask me, how do I do my own plan, right?
Mm.
So if you want to get your bench press to X, how do you get there? Or your squat or your deadlift, right? And I would say, okay, well, you have to find out what's your 1 rep max right now, and what do you want it to be feasibly within the next, wherever your next competition is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to work backwards from that, right? So say it was 8 months. We have to work backwards 8 months and say, well, how do we get Chris from where he is right now in
Mm-hmm.
8 months to be in this place, right?
Right.
There would have to be a mathematical equation
Mm-hmm.
to make that happen. So what I did is I would show him the math that I would use. Okay, and I won't get into the math because it'd be too boring. But I would set up the math.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be there with a calculator and show him this is how
Yeah.
I do it. Well, when I went to college and I started learning
Mm-hmm.
about Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
I just started using spreadsheets to figure out. I had a sheet for bench press, a squat, and the deadlift. So when I would do these presentations, I would just have this cell that I could put in. Say you wanted to have a 400-pound bench up at 400. It would actually tell me you'd have to start with this and then end with this.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool because it made it easy for me to do these seminars. And say,
Right.
and bring a little printer with me and just print it off. Say, here's yours, here's yours, here's yours,
Yep.
right? And then it struck me that if I could do this for powerlifters to get stronger and more muscular, I could do it for anybody, provided I could figure out a way to get that 1 rep max without having to be invasive to get it.
Right.
So then I went back to the math department at Plymouth State, and I'm saying, how can I do this equation that would tell me if somebody does X amount of reps, what the 1 rep max would be without it to work, or sub-maximally figure that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Professor Spinbin with his beard and his glasses, they go, whoa. They said, that's just called regression analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, regression, okay.
Yeah.
So then I learned about that math and said, okay, well, created a formula where we could take anybody between 1 and 10 repetitions. So say you're doing a flat bench and you can do 6 with 275 and you can't do 7.
Mm-hmm.
I put that 6 with 275 in. It would use regression analysis and say, Chris's 1 rep output is X.
Mm.
Once I could figure that out, or once I knew what that was, then applying a formula to that would tell me predictably what you'd be able to do every 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be able to say, okay, this is how we'd slice up the reps and the weight based upon either their strength, hypertrophy, which is bigger size, or muscular endurance, which would be equal more repetitions. We could create formulas for each one of those types of objectives or outcomes so that we could create programming to suit the specifics of the individual's needs.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we did it, and then built the technology around it that it would fit every single piece of exercise equipment that could be possibly made on the planet, every barbell, every dumbbell, every piece of equipment from Cybex to Life Fitness to Hoist to Matrix to Nautilus. Any one of those we could actually adapt a formula that would fit any one of those particular pieces of equipment and create programming within the fitness centers to not only fit the equipment but also fit the person using it.
Right. And I think that's awesome that it's almost tailor-made to
It's
each individual.
tailor-made.
Yeah.
And the system abides by all of the principles of exercise science. So when you take a look at the principle of individuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just means like, how strong is this person in every movement right now? So if you and I tested on, say, chest press today, right? Would we be exactly the same?
No.
Well, how could we do the same workout?
Right.
We can do the same movement, but we can't do the same weight and rep.
Yeah.
So it would have to be specific to you and me. So that's individuality that says we have to measure this first. We have to measure body composition,
Yep.
this. So we have a baseline, right? Then you have what's called a principle of not progression, but overload. Overload just simply states that whatever you can do today, in order for your muscle to change, has to be challenged a little more than that's overload, right?
Right.
And then that comes in the principle of progression, which I was mentioning earlier, is that overload has to be progressive over time.
Mm-hmm.
In a linear training model, you do that over a certain amount of time, but you see it's not linear forever, because what ends up happening is it actually becomes a peak.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's called the principle of diminishing return.
Mm-hmm.
And that diminishing returns means that you're starting to go into plateau physiologically and neurologically.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's time to actually what's called do a deload.
Mm-hmm.
And you deload the body or the person's system so that when you do the next, we'll call it a mesocycle, which is an 8-week period, it would actually progress them for another 8 weeks, and then you do again, you deload them, and then another 8 weeks, and it continually brings them up to genetic potential without them, first of all, having to think about it. Secondly, allowing the trainers to be able to focus more on training and not having to worry about the math, right?
Yeah.
Third and foremost, that you're able to do large groups of people at a price that everybody can afford.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
So when you can do all of those things, then you have a business model in the fitness industry that you can take those 270 million people out there that don't know what they're doing. You're able to fix their metabolism, because muscle is metabolism. So when you fix the muscles, you're fixing metabolism, which means that even if they're not eating great in the beginning, they have more muscle to be able to metabolize the calories, the excess calories they're taking in, until they slowly figure out how to fix their foods too. So the combination of building muscle and slowly changing what you put in your mouth is the key to a greater solution for healthcare in this country.
Right. That's awesome. And there's one guy who is in the I guess influencer space. I forget his name. Wish I could remember it because I'd bring him up. But yeah, well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me. If you guys like this episode of Changing Gears, remember to like and subscribe and show Rocco some love. I'll leave him in the link in the description below. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.